In this video, I'm going to show you how to draw ears. I will go over the anatomy as well as how to simplify and place the ears on the head. First, we will have to discuss the anatomy of the ear, and then I can show you how to simplify and place it. The ears may look complicated at first glance, but in reality they are relatively easy. Ears usually don't fit perfectly straight on the human head, instead they are tilted outwards by the concha. The concha can usually be seen at the back of the head and is responsible for tilting the ears. Of course, this varies between people. Also, the concha pushes the ears more out at the top than on the bottom. On the concha, we now have the ear itself. The edge of the ear is called the helix, and it usually starts about the middle of the ear and ends at the start of the earlobes. The earlobes can either be attached to the head, that's why they are called attached earlobes, or they can be hanging free from the head, that's why, you guess it, they are called free earlobes. This weird shape inside the ear that looks really confusing is honestly the simplest one. You will see later why. Anyways, this is the villain twin of the helix and it's called antihelix. I'm sure you know the weird triangle of your ear. If not, I'm talking about this, which is called the tragus, and of course this one was also unlucky and got a villain twin called the antitragus. Behind the tragus we have the reason we have ears, the ear hole. Now, I told you all of the anatomy, but you still don't know how to draw an ear. To start off, we have to simplify the ear into something anybody can draw. So how about we take a rectangle? We already know that the helix, remember that was the edge of the ear, starts about the middle of the ear. So we can draw a line across the middle of our rectangle. Now we start drawing a shape that resembles a 9. The helix got some volume to it and therefore we have to do this again. But now you will have to make the distance bigger the wider you go down. And then draw the earlobe by just connecting one end to another and rounding it off a bit. Now we will take on the shape all of you probably fear the most, the antihelix. Does this letter remind you of something? Right, that is the shape of the antihelix. That's simple, isn't it? So now we draw in a Y following the shape of the helix. One end connects somewhere at the start of the helix and the other one connects somewhere in the top of the ear. Both of them, however, don't go over the helix, instead they wrap under it. That is also why the helix casts a shadow on the antihelix. Now we have to correct the shape a bit. The connection on the bottom has some thickness to it, so we will have to make it wider by just erasing a bit and then connect it a bit further away. The antihelix also has sort of a dip between its connections at the upper half. This area is usually darker. Also, one important thing to know about the antihelix is the fact that it does not lay flat inside the ear. Instead, it protrudes outwards a bit. I will show you what I mean. If you draw an ear in an angle, you will have to draw the antihelix sticking out like that. Of course, I'm over exaggerating it here, but this is just to get the point across that the antihelix does stick out, so keep this in mind when drawing it. Then we will have to draw the tragus. To draw that, you will just have to connect the upper and lower parts of the ear. This shape can be simplified as a triangle. And of course, we have the antitragus, which is just a smaller version of the tragus sitting at the end of the antihelix. Sometimes you can't even see the antitragus. The space that is empty right now is usually in shadow and doesn't get a lot of light, except you directly light it. Now that you know how to draw an ear, you can try to put it on a head using everything we just learned. The simplest method to do this would be to use the Loomis method I showed in my previous video. With this method, we draw an oval or circle depending on the angle of the head and split this in half. The ear now starts at the lower right of this circle. The top of the ear usually is at the height of the brow line and the bottom usually sits at the nose line. So we will have to draw a rectangle in using this information. If we draw the ear at an angle, we would have to make this rectangle tilting slightly away from the oval because of the concha, and we will have to remember that the concha pushes the ear more out at the top than on the bottom. Also, the ear isn't connected straight to the head. It is instead tilted a bit. Those are the basic infos for connecting the ear to the head. And now we will simply start with the helix at about the middle of our rectangle and draw in our 9 shape. If you draw the ear in an angle, you have to make sure you bend this 9 according to its perspective. If you can't do that right now, I would advise you to first learn basic perspective. Now we make this again to get in some thickness, and remember to make the distance wider the further you go down. The next step would be to draw the anti-helix in using our Y shape and making it wider at the bottom. And remember, if we draw the ear at an angle, we will have to draw the anti-helix sticking outwards as we learned. Now we just have the tragus and antitragus left. The tragus also sticks out a bit if you draw the ear in an angle, so try to draw that in as well. Should be really easy. Last, we have the antitragus left, which should be fairly easy to draw in. Just connect the smaller tragus to the end of the antihelix and you're done. And there you have your ear. Quickly recap, we have the helix which you draw in using a 9 and that starts about the middle of the ear. Then we have the antihelix that sticks out a bit when drawn in an angle and resembles the shape of an Y. The tragus can be simplified as a triangle and connects the upper and lower parts of the ear. And the antitragus sits at about the end of the antihelix and is just a smaller tragus. The ear is tilted outwards and is pushed more out at the top than on the bottom by the concha. Also, the ear is tilted instead of connecting straight to the head. And that's nearly all you need to know about ears. And of course, you could alter the shape of the ear depending on the person you try to draw. You could, for example, try to draw more pointy ears, or you could try to draw elf ears, or anything that comes to mind. You don't have to simply rely on this. This is just a basic guide. You can make the ears longer or wider depending on what you want. So never get hung up in those guides. They are just there to guide you, like the name says. They are guidelines, not fixed lines you have to always follow. I hope this video could help you out a bit, and I wish you a wonderful day.